Welcome to the SoulAbility Superhuman Laboratory, where we uncover the secrets to upgrading your mind, body, soul, and business. Welcome, guys, to another episode of the My SoulAbility Podcast. On today's episode, this is going to be just me, totally solo, Dr. Mike DeMarco, and I want to share with you guys my top 5 intentions to ask Mother Ayahuasca. So if you've been following me on social media and Instagram and Facebook, you know that a few weeks ago, me and my wife Sema, we hosted an event at Rythmia Life Advancement Center in Costa, Costa Rica, and one of the main things about this place is that it's the only medically licensed place in the world to perform plant medicine ceremonies, specifically ayahuasca. Yeah, I mean, we went last year as a guest, and this year it was our first time speaking there, and both times amazing, both times transformational, and both times had a really big impact on both of our lives. And rather than just sharing what my experience, because everybody's experience is going to be different, right? So whenever you do a plant medicine, people always want to ask you, so what did you see? What was it like? And when you tell them, it kind of sets up the expectation for what they should be experiencing. And some people think if they don't experience that same thing as you, then there's something wrong with them, or maybe they didn't take too much or whatever. But that's not the answer. Like, every experience is going to be different. Mother Ayahuasca is always going to show you what you need to see at that time. And if you don't really set an intention, you may not see it, because then it could just show you random things. You won't really understand it. But if you ask a specific question and set an intention, then that's really important. So setting an intention whenever you're using a psychedelic, or even meditating, or even just like starting your day, it kind of sets the tone for the day, the event, the thing that you're doing. And then you have that filter on to see the things that are appropriate for answering the question of that, whatever that intention is. For example, if you're meditating and you want to find out, why, or just feel better about yourself, you set the intention like, this meditation is going to help me feel better about myself, and you keep saying it, and it's going to happen. If you want to see red cars, if you're like, when I'm driving to work today, I want to see how many red cars I can see, and you focus on all the red cars, you're going to see a lot more red cars than you're going to see if you didn't, than if you just weren't focusing at all. So I hope that helps. So these are my top 5 intentions, and these are not just, some of these I got from Jerry, who owns Rythmia, who's done many plant medicine journeys himself, and has witnessed and experienced plant medicine ceremonies with, I think, over 500 people at this point. I don't know the exact number, but it's a lot. So let's just get to it. The first question that I think everybody should ask, and Jerry definitely agrees with me on this, is to ask, who have I become? Or why is this an important question? Instead of asking, like, who am I? Or, which is kind of the same thing, or who was I? Well, it kind of doesn't matter who you were, but it matters who you are right now. So that way you have the awareness to be able to change it if it's not in alignment with who you think you should be. And asking that question and knowing the answer, your subconscious will change it. So just being aware that, hey, I've become an asshole. You're going to do things in your daily life, and you're going to notice the times when you're an asshole. And ayahuasca is going to show you when times you were an asshole. So you have like examples of that, most likely, maybe not. But that's just my experience. So, and you have to set the tone, the level playing field, the foundation for the next steps, the next levels in your evolution as a person. And number 2 would be, please merge me with my soul. Or you can say merge me with my soul, or a variation on that. But this is really important. This is important for everybody to ask. I don't know too many people that haven't been separated with their soul. And what I mean is, between the ages of 1 and 5, most people were separated from their soul at some point, whether it's they didn't get fed fast enough, or they had some traumatic event like some sexual abuse, or they got physical abuse, or they got abandoned, or whatever. Something happened, most likely between the ages of 1 and 5, and sometimes even before. Sometimes like before you were born, something happened in the womb that separated you from your soul. And you can never be your full person if you don't merge with your soul. And one of the things, so what Jerry talked about with at Rythmia with the plant medicine is that, and this is why it's so powerful. And you can get the answer to these questions with a lot of other modalities, but this is one of the most powerful, where when you ask that question, your ego, yourself, all these other parts about you become drunk off the medicine, except for your soul. Your soul is the only one that maintains the consciousness and awareness to be able to act. And it makes it a lot easier to, once you remove all the other stuff, to be able to merge with your soul. Now, I think that I merged with my soul not on ayahuasca. I think it was during a 21 phase Kundalini meditation, which was specific for merging with your soul and finding the self. So, and it's definitely a psychedelic experience in itself too. And it was just meditation. So if you don't want to use a plant medicine, you don't have to, but it does take a lot more work. And it is harder, especially if you have a lot of blocks, like ego blocks or mental blocks, or things that you think like, oh, this is not for me, or you don't even know if you're getting to that place. So I always, when I talk to people about if they should do plant medicine or not, because they say like, you know, I meditate a lot, and I'm aware, I'm awake, I'm enlightened. Well, the plant medicine will take you to the place so you can experience being enlightened. Now, if you just have been getting to the tailgate party in the parking lot of the game, you might think it's great. And if that's the only place you ever got, you might be like, yeah, I'm here. I'm here. But once someone shows you what the game is supposed to look like, you realize that you never actually were there. And that's what the plant medicine will do. It'll show you the game. It'll show you what it is like to be in that state, what it is like to be in a state of bliss. So you have a step point, so you have a map to get back there. So then when you're doing all these other things, you can get back there. Now, number 3, which is really important, and what happened to me was super profound on this, and it's not going to happen to everybody. I've heard all different variations of this, is heal my heart. And if you cannot fix it, give me a new one. So for me, my heart was broken. Like it couldn't get fixed. It was unfixable. You know, I was one of those people where I knew the right thing to do, and I knew who a good person was, and I knew what a good person was, but I just didn't feel it in my heart. Like my heart wasn't right. Like my mind knew, but my heart didn't feel it. And since this experience where I had to get a new heart, where I asked for this, so when I asked for this to heal my heart, it wasn't happening. Like ayahuasca told me your heart is too broken for me to heal. So I asked to give me a new one, and it literally made a new one for me and used this giant machine to inject it into my chest. And this sounds really crazy, but I felt it beating, and I heard my heart beating after that in my ear, in my mind. And now I feel when I meet people, instead of like knowing it in my head that they're a good person or what I want to do or what's right for me, I feel it in my heart. So if you can't fix it, like it'll actually literally give you a new one. I've heard of that happening many, many times to many, many people. And if you actually go to Rythmia, Jerry will share his story about him where he actually had to get a new heart as well, where his heart was too broken, too damaged to just fix. So there's hope, right? And this is really important, because if you don't heal your heart and you don't start thinking with your heart, even if you merge with your soul, even if you know who you become, even if all these things happen, it's going to break again, or your soul's going to leave you. So if you don't heal your heart, your soul is going to leave you because your heart's still broken. It needs a full heart to be able to stay in your body. And this sounds really crazy and esoteric, but I experienced it, and it's totally changed my life and my view on everything. Not just 2 weeks ago, but months ago. And it's tough to talk about these things to people because they don't understand them unless they've done them. It's the truth, right? Everyone wants to know what your experience is like, what it feels like. What am I gonna get out of it, instead of just doing it? They want to know they want to know the answer to the test before they take the test. So just like they've been trained their whole lives. Something I talked about with Jesse Elder, where when we go to school, we are trained to know the answers of the test before we take the test. And then when we do things in life, we want to know what the outcome is going to be, what the thing is going to happen before we even do anything, before we even live. And it holds us back, our assumption of what's going to happen, from so many different things. And sometimes we assume that something's going to happen and we don't think we need it. We totally dismiss it as like unnecessary, and we don't even do it, rather than just doing it and actually experiencing it and really gaining that wisdom from experience, rather than just hearing about it. Where you hear about this all the time. People will read books, right? And they'll tell you things that they learned out of books, but they don't really have the wisdom of experiencing those things to know for sure that those are real, those are true. And you can tell in their heart, in the way that they talk about them, that they really don't have that kind of wisdom. Whereas if you read a book on ancient Egypt, you know these things in Egypt, but if you talk to an Egyptologist and they went into the pyramids and they studied all these things firsthand and touched them with their hands and smelled them with their nose and really lived it, it's a whole different experience. Like it's another level of wisdom. And if you want to gain that wisdom, you have to go and try these things. And gaining the wisdom about yourself, about your soul, about your heart, about who you've become is one of the most profound things that you can ever do in your life. Now, once your heart is healed and your soul is merged and you learned who you've become up until this point, like whatever trauma changed you or things changed you along the way, then you can start asking, who am I supposed to be? Because the person you become right now may not be who you're supposed to be. Now, who you're supposed to be, what am I supposed to do? What's the future for me? What's the next step? All those are kind of the same question. But if you ask, who am I supposed to be? It'll give you this, imagine that you have a picture of yourself 5 years from now as whatever you want to be, like a talk show host or someone that's changing the world, or a CEO of a company. Asking what the next step is kind of irrelevant, because once you know who you're supposed to be, you're going to find the next step and really know who you're supposed to be. Like, this is like you experience it. This is like you gain that belief in yourself, that kind of undying belief of like who you're supposed to be. Whenever you hear about someone that's really, really knows, like for example, someone said, I'm supposed to be the president of the United States, and they lived their life and did everything in their power and sacrificed many, many things that most people would never do to become that person. They really know who they're supposed to be. Or I'm supposed to be a professional athlete, and they sacrifice so many things to get to that level, just to become who they're supposed to be, because they really truly believe it in their heart, in their self, in their soul, that that's who they're supposed to be. So when you do the plant medicine, whether it's ayahuasca or mushrooms or iboga, or even if you spend a lot of time and become a really great and experienced meditator to answer these questions, you gain that belief in your heart and your soul about who you're supposed to be, and that wisdom, and you start working towards that goal. With your subconscious will automatically start working towards that goal. You know, it's kind of like changing the operating system of the programming of who you're supposed to be, rather than like the one you currently have, which probably isn't serving you too well. You know, like the answers we currently have about who we're supposed to be is like, I'm supposed to be a loser. I'm not supposed to be rich. That's supposed to be somebody else. I'm not a great lover. I'm not this. I'm not that. I'm not smart. I'm not Or maybe you say, I am this. And all those things are who you become because that's who you believe you're supposed to be. Now, and then you keep doing things in your life to become that person. And you end up not liking that person because it's not really who you're supposed to be. Now, number 5, this is just something that I like to ask, and I ask myself because of something I experienced on one of my journeys, which the ayahuasca told me that something was holding me back from getting something that I needed. And it was for me to ask, so what is holding me back from becoming that person? You know, what is holding me back? And for me, the answer was not listening to myself. The answer was looking to everybody else for the answers, you know, hiring coaches, consultants, reading books, listening to podcasts, all these things, telling me that is the thing that's holding me back from becoming that person. I asked, like, well, successful people have these people around them. And the answer was yes, but those people, the great ones, don't just tell you what to do. They ask you the right questions. They pull the answer out of you because that's where the true answer lies. They're not those people that are just like, hey, here's the blueprint for success, follow it. Or I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do to be successful, and when you get there, you're going to be happy. Where you can do that, like, you can follow their blueprint, and yeah, maybe you will achieve some success for a business or for a relationship or whatever. But if it's not totally authentic with yourself and aligned with yourself, when you get to the top level where you think you're going to be happy, you're going to be totally unfulfilled because that wasn't really the goal. Like, you're really supposed to learn some of this stuff for yourself. Part of it is the journey. One of the most profound things that I actually heard on this trip was from one of the shamans, Mitra, who's this, like, he's this Israeli guy who he left his spiritual practices of meditation and all these, like, things to study plant medicine about 20 years ago with a Taita, who is the guy who trains all the shamans at Rythmia out of Colombia. And he said, what's the point of life? He asked all of us, asked about 20 people, and the responses he got were like love, happiness, you know, joy, living in a state of bliss, your family, your friends, or all these things. And those are probably answers that a lot of you guys would probably give, and those are not bad answers. But the one response that underlines it all is the point of life is life. No matter what your intention is, no matter what you do in your life, the point of life is life, just to live. And it's up to you to choose how you live it, you know, how you experience it. You can experience it like it's the worst thing on earth, or you can experience it like it's the best thing. And just look in the mirror and, like, just look at yourself and look at your face and look at your hands, and, like, you exist. Like, you're moving, you're a living being. Like, what we know of the universe, the rarity of that happening is trillions to one. Like, you shouldn't even exist. And for you to exist as a human being rather than another animal or a plant or something else is even more amazing. And the fact that you have consciousness and the fact that you have awareness to do things like listen to this podcast and own a business and love your family is, like, truly, truly the most amazing thing in the universe. Now, I wanted to bring up these intentions because I've heard a lot of people talking about ayahuasca and their experiences with it, and they make it kind of seem like they just go to, like, the jungles of Peru and they come back with this great business idea and become massively successful, or they learn how to make more money. And that's not really what it's all about. It's not just about making more money. If you figure out who you are and you start living authentically and true to yourself and true to your soul, and you merge with your soul and you heal your heart and you think with your heart first, your mind second, all that stuff is just going to happen. like the money, the fame, the fortune. Like if you want it, it'll happen. But just to go and set the intention and ask ayahuasca, like, how can I make more money? That's kind of an empty question, where you'll get the answer. Maybe it'll tell you to trade more stocks or do these things, or maybe it will like totally just fuck your mindset up and what you're thinking and push you in a new direction. But the point of life is life. It's not just to make money. Like, money is not the end goal. Money helps you get these things and become have freedom and choice, but it's not the end goal. The point of life is life. If you guys have any questions about the plant medicine or intentions, or just questions about meditation or any of that stuff, or even business, anything, just feel free to message me on Facebook at facebook.com/Dr. DeMarco, or DM me on Instagram at Dr. DeMarco, and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. And if I don't know the answers, help you, point you in the right direction. And maybe I can be the person that asks you the right questions, that pulls the real answer outside of yourself. Because you might be asking me these questions and you really know the true answer, but you don't even know it, or you're not even thinking about it. So until next week, just remember, guys, the point of life is life.